from the shadows of the National Palace.
Subscribe from the muddy trenches of politics. This is the Pigsty, the pig pen of dirty politics.
How are my pigs who live and wallow in this blessed banana republic called Mexico? Welcome to another episode of your favorite corner of national filth. Put on your gas mask, because today, the stench coming from the Ministry of Public Education isn't from new books, it's from nothing but political corpses refusing to be buried. And if that wasn't enough, on the other hand, today we have a gala event. One of those red carpets that smells like tar and under-the-table contracts. Hold on, because today the power mafia isn't just bringing communist lice. They've also gotten Botox and are dressed in Gucci for Hollywood glamour. Come on in, make yourselves comfortable, but not too much, because the smell of sulfur and hypocrisy is stronger than usual today. Welcome to the Pigsty, the pig pen of politics, the only corner of the internet where we don't swallow the nonsense, even if they serve it to us in a porcelain cup. Here, your untrustworthy host, Che Morano, to stir up the news until the fat comes out. Today we have a feast served with the tantrum of a coffeehouse communist, who turned out to cling to power even more than a stray dog to a bone. A plastic chop and an actress who melts in praise for a regime that despises its own people? Let's start first, let's go with the sad ending. Che Guevara from the flea market. What happened to Marx Arriaga? That character who seems straight out of a story. A parody of Les Miserables filmed in a flea market? The self-proclaimed revolutionary of language. The man who wanted to save Mexico from neoliberal science, using spelling mistakes and social resentment. It ended in the most pathetic way possible. Sitting on a bench outside his office, waiting for either fate or his severance to catch up with him, yesterday they emptied out his office. Yes, just as you heard, among his cardboard boxes were probably his dreams of collectivization and his manuals on how to destroy children's logic in 10 steps. But the guy, in a display of lack of dignity that looks more like a case for psychiatry, is still there, waiting for his dismissal letter. He says he has an unbreakable will, please, that willpower will run out the day he realizes they didn't deposit his paycheck. Because these lousy communists love Marx, but they adore the paycheck from the federal treasury. They get dizzy just by standing on a brick, and when they're brought down, they don't know how to walk on the ground they themselves left full of potholes. Let's not get it wrong, Marx Arriaga wasn't an educator, he was a neuron fumigator. Under his command, he produced the worst textbooks in the history of this country. Let's remember his little gems so we don't forget the damage. Diet mathematics reduced the teaching of exact sciences to the miserable amount of 11 pages. Apparently, in Arriaga's ideal world, children don't need to add up money. They only need to know how to subtract hope. Hallucinogenic geography. According to its brilliant editors, the Earth orbits Saturn. How outrageous. Not even Christopher Columbus was that lost? Science fiction history. Did they change Benito Juarez's birthday? The distinguished one must be rolling in his grave seeing that a leftist with delusions of grandeur can't even open Wikipedia to check a date. This guy didn't want citizens, he wanted a factory of mediocre and conformist people. His goal was to brainwash the children so that instead of aspiring to be engineers or scientists, they would aspire to be servants of the nation, waiting for the monthly handout. But don't get too excited, since in the fourth transformation, trash isn't discarded, just recycled. The scruffy one leaves and Nadia Lopez arrives, a supposed indigenous poetess. How do you even say it? Well, who knows? But this is where things take a turn, my little piggies. It turns out that the brand new director of educational materials is the wife of a welfare judge. What a world of coincidences. There's no favoritism or nepotism here. Don't be suspicious. It's just that the universe is perfectly aligned, so that the positions stay within the same circle. They sell us the speech about transformation and justice for indigenous peoples, but the reality is the same as always. The distribution of positions among the connected elites. Recycled power for closed minds. Claudia Scheinbaum swears and insists to us that the books of the new medical school will remain in force. In other words, the cancer is gone, but the metastasis remains. The most concerning part of this circus is the lack of authority. Claudia Scheinbaum and the ineffable Mario Delgado, that guy with eyes like a toad. In the middle of the electric shock, they tried to use the old reliable trick, the golden exit. They wanted to send Arriaga to an embassy, which is the diplomatic dumping ground where they hide the disgraceful ones so they don't stink up Mexico. But what do you think the scruffy communists told them that's not unbelievable? An administration that claims to have total control of the country. They can't even get a minor official out of a CEP office without him staging a sit-in in the hallway. If they can't deal with a resentful bureaucrat, how do they expect to move the country forward? Marx Arriaga has shown that a single guy with enough arrogance and incompetence can turn the whole system upside down, ignoring the president without any consequences. Marx Arriaga is not an accident. He is the mold, the prototype of the official of this era. Arrogant and overbearing. Does he feel touched by the hand of the supreme leader? He prefers narrative over reality. He is a profoundly incompetent person. In any private company, I wouldn't even hire him to organize the coffee line. He knows his position was undeserved. He knows he got there through favoritism and narrative manipulation. That's why he clings to the position like a tick, because he knows that out there, in the world where results matter, he's nobody. And the worst part is that the list is endless, from governors who don't even know where they're standing, to senators who can barely read what's written for them. And as if that weren't enough, in Del the Lousy Communist, here comes the Oscar for Best Supporting Actress, but for contracts. Salma Hayek and her role in the palace, lights, camera, and corruption. This Sunday, the National Palace wasn't the seat of the executive power, but the stage for a casting call for the sequel to The Dictatorship of Well-Being. We had a very special guest, none other than Salma Hayek herself, who left behind her 3 mansions in Paris and her yachts in the Mediterranean for a little while, to come and tell us, the mortals who pay value added tax even on chewing gum, how wonderful the government of continuity is. With a woman's touch, wonderful. Salma came with her script well memorized. She got sentimental. She almost dehydrated from the emotion. She said she felt like crying because we finally have this president. How touching. I almost had a runny nose from the emotion. Or maybe it was an allergy to so much falseness. It turns out that the woman from Veracruz discovered that cinema in Mexico will finally flourish thanks to a 30% income tax incentive. What a coincidence, just what the industry needed, for the people to subsidize movies for millionaires. Meanwhile, public hospitals don't even have paracetamol. That's thinking about the poor, damn it. You guys don't appreciate Chachi. Her efforts, damn it. Did we see female power in all its glory? Or just a business deal between girlfriends? Turns out the show didn't end there. Salma, wrapped in a flag of convenient feminism, praised the queens of welfare, Claudia Scheinbaum, and of course, the ineffable Rocio Nale, governor of Veracruz, who isn't even from Veracruz. If I'm going to talk about female power, and if anyone doesn't like it, they can leave, the actress said, with that arrogance that only comes from having a bank account with more zeros. What kind of brains do those who applaud her have? She talked about how Nale raised and guided her. Well, she was certainly well educated, but not in filmmaking, rather in the high art of family business. Because while Salma was talking about identity and national pride, in the offices of Pemex and Dos Bocas, you could hear the sound of the cash register. Is this love for art or love for contracts and influence? Because this is where the pig twists its tail. Once again, my friends. It turns out that Salma's excitement isn't for nothing. Between tears, she forgot to mention a key character in this suspenseful plot and direct awards. Her cousin, Arturo Quintanilla Hayek. Coincidence in this mess? We don't believe in coincidences. Arturo, the uncomfortable but very well-connected cousin, is a close friend of Rocio Nale. And since friendships in the 4T are sealed with public money, his company, Grupo Huerta Madre, took the small amount of 4,968.8 million pesos to prepare the land for the Dos Bocas refinery. Of course, it's a super production and not like those from Hollywood, but wait, there's more. As if 5 billion weren't enough, another 593 million pesos in Pemex contracts were awarded to companies owned by the Hayek family. That's love for Mexico, damn it! That's defending Mexicans. Of course, as long as the Mexican's last name is Quintanilla Hayek and they have contracts with the government. Do you remember a few months ago when Salma Hayek and Angelina Jolie were touring Veracruz in a helicopter owned by the state? Well, now it all makes sense. The truth is out. They gave them free helicopter rides at the people's expense. Let it not be said that Mexicans aren't good hosts, but here's the reality. Veracruz versus the Hollywood script. It's very easy to come to the National Palace, bask in praise with the president, and then take a private flight. Back to a reality where there's no shortage of water, electricity, or security, says Salma, who says she feels safe filming in her state. Well, of course, with the security detail they give her so that not even a ray of sunlight touches her. Anyone would feel like they're in Disneyland. Why doesn't Salma Semanita stay in Veracruz without bodyguards? She should go count the coolers with heads that show up on the corners. She should go comfort the mothers of the disappeared. Or she should ask Nail why the dismembered now turn out to have died of heart attacks. According to the official narrative, it's very convenient to be a cultural ambassador when your relatives are helping themselves to the public funds, while the state is falling apart. Ineptitude. If there were an award for hypocrisy, Salma would already have the Oscar, the Golden Globe, an honorary mention at the Cannes Festival, an Ariel, and even a Roma, all at once. She won the Razzie for Worst Supporting Actress for trying to sell us the idea that her support is for national cinema, when it's clearly for the family business cinema. And for the director of this production, Claudia Scheinbaum, we present the award for saying that the criticism comes from bots. It's the old trick of someone who has no arguments to explain why they're giving our tax money to their friends' production companies and to the relatives of their allies. The conclusion, my pigs, is that the mafia renews itself. The pigsty stays the same. In fact, it's even worse now, so you know. Lovely. Next time you see a Hollywood star crying with emotion at a morning press conference, don't look for the feelings. Look for the contract. The power mafia didn't just leave. It swapped the shawl for a designer dress and now calls us darlings while picking our pockets. Salma Hayek showed us that even the most successful people have a price, and hers seems to be worth billions of pesos billed in her cousin's name. Let the applause continue. Let the music play on. While the people suffer from insecurity and lack of medicine, they keep filming their favorite movie. How do you loot a country and have them thank me for it? I'm leaving now. All this stench of lice, communist wannabes mixed with Chanel, with hints of corruption, cronyism, and nepotism, is making me nauseous. Anyway, pigs, the educational nightmare continues. The smell of Mexican humanism. It's turning my stomach, and I need a whiskey to swallow the bitter pill of watching these parasites keep devouring everything. The future of the children? The name changes, the smell is the same. Education in Mexico is still held hostage by a gang that prefers indoctrination over excellence. And for the chimpancheiros, I just tell them to stay in their bubble, keep applauding the show with Hollywood sparkles. But don't complain when you realize that you're just extras in this movie, where the main characters always walk away with the loot. Meanwhile, here we are in the pigsty, the pig pen of politics, getting our hands dirty while they wash theirs with champagne. I'm Che Morano, see you in the next mud pit. And remember, if there's noise coming from the river, it's either because a Chiro is taking a bath or because they've already stolen the pipes. Goodbye.
This is the Pigsty, the pig pen of politics with Che Morano.